All right, so I'll go over this law with you. All right. Here we have an interesting law, and it's a composite of many laws that are depending on this one law. We'll do this and then we'll stop for today. Okay, one law is a person who cooks on purpose on Shabbos. So that food is forbidden for him forever. But permissible for others immediately Motzi Shabbat. Good? A person who cooks on Shabbat not intentionally. He does it accidentally. He does it in ignorance. That's a better way of explaining it. He purposely cooks, but he doesn't know that it's forbidden. He purposely cooks. Either he thinks that today is not Shabbat, or he knows that it's Shabbat, and he thinks that this is permissible. And a subset of that is that some rabbi told him it was permissible. Right? His friend told him it was permissible. Friend didn't know. So he cooks on Shabbos a meatball. A little meatball, he cooks it up on Shabbos.
Means he turned on the gas, he turned on a fire?
Everything.
Wow.
Took out some meatball from the refrigerator, and it was, cold, and he lit the fire, boiled up the water.
And he didn't know it was Shabbos.
Didn't know it was Shabbos. Threw the meatball in, and he takes the meatball out, right? And now the rabbi says, what in the world? The rabbi happens to be passing by his house, and he smells this thing burning, and he looks and he says, Mr. Gross, what in the world are you doing? He says, hi, Rabbi, I'm cooking up some meat. He says, don't you know it's Shabbos today? He said, oh man, Shabbos? I thought today was Tuesday. Wow. And he slaps himself on the forehead with one hand, and with the other hand, the one that's holding the meatball, or the plate that's holding the meatball rolls into a big pot of 2,000 meatballs. Okay, what's the law of all those meatballs? Well, there's 2,000 against one. Should be okay. Should be all right. I mean, usually the law is 60, right? Buttle was 60. So you say, now, first of all, it's not 60. 60 is only if there's taste. Here, there's no taste. You have a whole big pot of 2,000 meatballs, and this meatball gets mixed in. There's no taste. It should be negated 1 and 2. That's the law. 1 and 2. If you have a treif meatball, a meatball that was made from a cow that was roadkill, and you decided to make a meatball out of it to give to your non-Jewish worker, which is permissible, 100%, right? And that meatball that you make gets mixed up in 2 kosher meatballs. They're all kosher, batal barov, because there's no taste involved. Taste, you have to have 60. That's what's called, okay, there's different situations. But here, listen to this closely. Mr. Gross cooked a meatball on Shabbos in error. He didn't know it was Shabbos. And now this meatball by accident got mixed up into 2,000 meatballs, 20,000 meatballs, 200,000 meatballs. It gets mixed up in 2 million meatballs.
He never gets to eat a single one of them, does he?
What's the law? It's forbidden. All of those meatballs are forbidden for everybody.
Everybody, but you just
Everybody in the
in a
world.
different situation.
Until
where you know
one minute, don't protest. You're not going to get out of this one. They're all forbidden until Motzi Shabbos.
That's it, yeah, until Motzi Shabbos. But even Motzi Shabbos, these are all forbidden to him. But
No. Don't make up laws.
Oh, so it's the same law.
No.
Before you said,
Fair enough.
wait,
Without you putting in your 2 cents. The Torah says that on Shabbos, all of these 2 million meatballs are forbidden for every Jew.
yeah, sure.
Why sure?
Because they are until Motzi Shabbat.
Why?
Because in the previous example, he knew it was Shabbos, and he made the meatballs. He can't, to him, they're always forbidden, but to somebody else, they can eat them at Motzi Shabbat.
Nah.
Isn't that what you said?
Just to let you know how incredibly wrong you are. Listen to this law. I just said
Did I hear it right, or I just understood it wrong?
No, wrong. Because there's a different principle here that's involved, and you don't know the principle yet. But let me just, in order to show you how do you say, what a big, what do they call this thing? A big question mark. There's a word for it. Anyway, a big question this is like this. Listen, you have a meatball from totally treif cow meat. The cow died from old age, right? And you cut this cow up to give to your dogs. And one piece of this cow meat, it's still fresh, the cow died. You say, no, you know what? I'm going to make a meatball and I'm going to give it to my good worker, Ivan. Permissible, 100% permissible. And that treif meatball gets mixed up on Shabbos whenever you want to. That treif meatball, totally treif meatball, forbidden to eat. It gets mixed up in not 2 million, not 200,000, not 20,000, not two, in 2 other meatballs, kosher meatballs.
Can't eat it.
What's the law?
You can't eat them.
You can eat them. They're all permissible. It's called bittul barov. If you have 2 kosher meatballs and one non-kosher, and you can't tell the difference between them. Then that mixture is permissible to eat. It's called bittul barov. Unless there's some sort of an external law. Like, for instance, the meatballs are nice big ones, right? Or
this what does this have to do with Shabbos? This could
Don't
be
try to figure it out.
This could be on Tuesday.
Listen. Very good. Very good. 1 minute. Okay, now let's apply this to Shabbat, right? So what are we saying? There's one little point I didn't tell you about. That I tried to hint at you, but you refused to listen. The principle involved here is called davar sheyesh lo matirim. In other words, let's go back again. You have a little meatball that's totally treif. It's made from not kosher cow meat. The cow died on its own. Nevela. And you made a meatball to give to your goy, and that meatball gets mixed up, that treif meatball gets mixed up with 2 kosher meatballs. You can't tell the difference between which one is they're all permissible. That's the law. The law is 1 treif one and 2 kosher ones is enough to negate the isser. You're not allowed to boil them together. If you boil them together, you got problems. Then you'll have to have 60. But as it is, you want to eat them dry. Let's say they were already boiled, already eaten. Bittul barov. Here is exactly the same thing. You have 1 treif meatball, exactly the same thing, but it's treif for a little bit different reason. You cooked it on Shabbos by accident. And it gets mixed up into 2 forbidden. Gets mixed up into 200, forbidden. Gets mixed up into 2 million. They're all forbidden. Why? Why should they be forbidden? It's the same exact situation, right? Wrong. Because now if you cooked it on Shabbos, you've got a big problem. You have what's called davar sheish lo matirin. This is a prohibition which is going to be permissible. This meatball is forbidden now. As soon as Shabbat goes out, it's going to be permissible. That's called a davar, a thing, sheyesh lo, that there is to it, matirin, a permission. Now it is forbidden. You cooked it on Shabbat by accident. Motzi Shabbat, it's going to be totally permissible. So they say anything which is like this, that now is forbidden totally.
To who is it permissible? Is it permissible to you, Motzi Shabbat?
Everybody.
Or is it permissible to everybody?
Motzi Shabbat, you did it by accident, it's permissible for everybody.
After Motzi Shabbat, it's permissible.
That's right. So
including you, the cooker.
Yes.
Okay.
You did it in shogeg. You did it by accident.
Okay.
So therefore, anything which is forbidden now, but it's going to become permissible, therefore, all the time it is not until that moment has arrived that it becomes permissible, it is forbidden, and it is never, there's nothing you can do that will make it permissible. Mix it up in a million, they're all forbidden. Because they say, why should we use some sort of a Torah principle to make it permissible, namely that it's negated in 200 or negated, and just wait a little while and it'll be permissible automatically on its own. Get it?
Think so.
Let me give you another case. I'll give you another case. I gave this case yesterday, right? My next door neighbor, who I hate, makes pickles. His name is Mr. Gross. Can't stand him. He makes pickles. I love pickles, but I hate him. And I make a vow. And I say, I will never eat Gross's pickles for the rest of my life. I make a vow. Now, the law of a vow is that there's ways that you can release a vow. You can release a vow. You can go to a rabbi and say, Rabbi, I didn't realize the implications of this vow. I want to be released from the vow. And the rabbi can say, okay, I'm permitting the vow is gone, nullified. No more vow. Oh, so what it comes out, that Mr. Gross's pickles that he makes, and I said are forbidden, those pickles are now a davar sheish lo matirin. They are forbidden today, but tomorrow I can go to a rabbi and I can get it permissible. So it's now forbidden and it's going to be permissible. Therefore, if one of these pickles, Mr. Gross's pickles, gets mixed up in 5 billion other pickles, all of those pickles are forbidden for me. All of them, they're forbidden until I go and relieve this vow that I made. Then all of them are permissible to me. Why? Because a thing which is forbidden now, but tomorrow is going to be permissible, is called a davar sheyesh lo matirin, and it's never negated even in 1,000. And I'll give you one more example, and then we're going to learn this law. An egg which is laid on Shabbos. An egg which is laid on Shabbos is forbidden on Shabbos. Fruits that fall from a tree on Shabbos, for our purposes, fruits that fall from a tree, they're forbidden on Shabbos. But after Shabbos, both the egg and the fruit is permissible. Therefore, if this egg gets mixed up in 1 million eggs, and this fruit gets mixed up in 1 million fruits, it has to be the same type, so you can't tell the difference between them. They get mixed up. All of those eggs are forbidden. Of course, if you can recognize the original egg, then you can take it out and it's all permissible. Or the original fruit, right, that you made the vow on. Not the vow, that fell down on Shabbos. If you recognize, but if you don't recognize it, then all of those eggs and all those fruits that it falls in are all forbidden until Shabbos goes out. Then it's all permissible. Just like the egg is permissible, it's all permissible. Get it?
Yeah.
All right, good. Now I'm going to have a little bit of a difficult law for you. Listen to this law. This is a real brain teaser. So what are we saying now? If there is something which is always forbidden, like this meatball that's made from the cow that was died of old age, if the meatball is something that's forbidden, then it's negated in two. Okay, good. Then if the meatball is a thing which will never be permissible, like I gave you the example of the meatball made from the nevela cow, right? Then we say, how many meatballs does it have to fall into in order to be permissible?
2.
2 is enough. But if that meatball is a meatball that will become permissible, then all of the meatballs in the world won't make it permissible until its time comes that it's automatically permissible.
Which would be after Shabbat.
After Shabbat, right. Okay, now listen, ready? Let's say that Mr. Groys purposely cooks up a meatball on Shabbos. What's the law?
He knows it's Shabbos?
He knows it's Shabbos. He's a rabbi.
That's why you hate him.
He's a rabbi. He knows it. He just gave a whole class in shul and a shul about how forbidden it is to cook on Shabbos, but he goes home and his Yetzer Hora starts really working on him and says, Groys, you need that cooked meatball. And you are a person that everyone depends on you. If something happens to you, who knows what's going to be? So you must cook this meatball on Shabbos or you might die from desire. Of course, he's fooling himself. So he cooks purposely the meatball on Shabbat. Okay? He knows he did a sin. It's a bad thing. And now as soon as he finishes cooking this meatball,
but it's also it's for his own satisfaction.
Doesn't make any difference.
No. It's not as though he's doing it. I'm doing this because God told me not to do it, so I'm doing it. That's something.
Doesn't make any difference. He knows it's forbidden. He went against God purposely. Whether he did it for his own pleasure, whatever. Nevertheless, that's called mazid. He purposely did a sin. Okay. What his motivations for doing this sin it's not important here. That's important how God judges him after he dies. We're not talking about that. We're talking about he purposely did a sin. Okay, now what is the law of this meatball? I'll just refresh your memory. The law of this meatball is for him, because he cooked it on purpose, this meatball is forbidden for him forever. Never permissible. If so, this meatball that he cooked, this has the same law as the nevela meatball, the meatball that was cooked from a cow that died on its own. The meatball made from the treif nevela cow, that meatball is never going to be permissible. Never going to be permissible.
Unless it's mixed with 2 other kosher ones.
That's right. If it's mixed in 2 other kosher. Very good. But this meatball that now Mr. Groys cooked on purpose has the same law. It should be that immediately Motzi Shabbos, no, not immediately, even on Shabbos. If on Shabbos this meatball gets mixed up in 2 other meatballs, then it should be that permissible. Right? Huh?
No. It's different. I'm sorry.
No.
It sounds different.
Different. Why does it sound different?
Well, maybe then I'm not hearing it right, or I'm blanking.
Not different. That meatball is a forbidden meatball, just like a nevela meatball is a forbidden meatball. It's forbidden.
One is forbidden because it's treif, and you're cooking it maybe any day. This case is a situation where you're cooking something on Shabbos, and for him, that meatball is always forbidden, even after Shabbos.
So for him, listen to this now. For him, this meatball is never going to be permissible. And if it gets mixed up into 2, it's permissible. But the meatball itself is never going to be permissible. Right? What about for other people? If Mr. Groys cooks a meatball on Shabbos, then the law is for other people it's forbidden on Shabbos, but Motzi Shabbos is permissible for others. Huh?
Yeah.
So now, if this meatball gets mixed into 2 million, as other people cannot eat any of these 2 million because it's a davar sheish lo matirin. Motzi Shabbos is going to be permissible for others. Therefore, this meatball, if it falls into a pot of 2 million, no one else can eat it. But he can eat it because it's a thing that's never going to be permissible. In fact, he could eat it if it even fell into 2. Right?
Huh?
Get it? We're going to see that that's not the law in the end. But do you understand the logic of it?
No.
A person that cooks on purpose on Shabbos, that food is forbidden for him forever, but for other people, it's permissible immediately Motzi Shabbat. If so, that food that Mr. Groys cooked for other people is called a davar sheish lo matirin. And if it gets mixed up in a 2 million or 2 billion, all of it is forbidden because it's the davar sheish lo matirin.
I don't get it. I don't understand the
Anyone get it?
now the 2, it's just me. Just the 2 million. He drops his meatball that he cooked on Shabbos.
This meatball
which
is
will always be forbidden to him. And,
Right.
But he drops it into 2 meatballs, and everybody else after Shabbos they can eat it, but he still can't eat it.
No. If he drops it into, forget about dropping it. Nobody drops it. He just holds this meatball. Motzi Shabbos, it's forbidden for him.
Right.
For other people, it's permissible.
Right.
All right, now let's not talk about Motzi Shabbos. Let's talk about on Shabbos.
He can't eat it.
On Shabbos, that meatball that he cooked has the same law as a treif meatball. Namely, if it gets mixed up into 2, it's permissible for him. But for other people, that meatball, Motzi Shabbos, is going to be permissible. Anything which now is forbidden and automatically is going to become permissible, it's never batal. Get it?
No, I'm still confused as I don't understand how you make the jump that this meatball that he cooked on Shabbos has the same legal status as a treif meatball.
Because for him, this meatball is forbidden forever. We don't care why it's forbidden.
But why not? It's forbidden because he did it on Shabbos.
No. According to the laws of treifus, we don't care if a thing is treif. We don't care if it's nevela. It's the same law if it's giraffe meat. Giraffe meat, though, would be different because it has a different taste to it.
Okay, it's pig meat, let's say.
Pig meat is what's called min be'eno mino. It's one type in a different type, so you could recognize it. Here it has to be that you can't recognize it.
Okay, it's from a donkey.
If donkey meat looked exactly like chicken meat, and it got mixed up, right? You'd have a big question. It's a big machlokas right in the beginning. If you go according to the taste, or you're going to the appearance. Nevertheless, you'll have to take my word for it.
Okay.
Meat that was cooked on purpose on Shabbos has the exact same law as whatever it is, snake meat, whatever meat, treif meat, nevela meat. The difference, though, here is that if this meat that he cooked on Shabbos gets mixed up in the same type, but it's permissible, it's negated in 2. Just like a piece of nevela meat. Should be. But for other people, not. In other words, here we have one piece of meat that has 2 different laws. For him, it's forbidden forever. For other people, it's going to be permissible Motzi Shabbat. Therefore, if it gets mixed up on Shabbat, for other people, it's forbidden even 1 million because it's going to be permissible Motzi Shabbat.
Okay.
For others. But for him, right, paradoxically, it should be more lenient. We're going to see that it's not. We'll finish the law. It should be more lenient. Why? Because for him, it's a thing that never will be permissible. It's not a davar sheish lo matirin. Therefore, it should be, according to him, it should be batal if you have in two more. Batal barov. That's what it should be, the law for him. But we're going to see that it's not. Okay, we'll continue this, God willing, tomorrow. Think about it. See you tomorrow, 8:15. Sorry for this terrible glitch that
It's
happened.
good class.
Yeah. See you. Shalom.